What's up, everybody? Jim and Chris here with Keeping It Real. Terry is taking a much-needed day off today, so she is not joining us. You're stuck with us.
So.
But the Schwartz will be with you next week. Next week, we're just going to say, we're already off the top of the bat. This week's episode won't nearly be as good as next week's.
Yeah.
We're just letting you know. We're going to do the full Letterman here and just tell you how much it's going to suck.
We're mailing it in.
Yeah. So next week is going to be our Keeping It Real will be a Star Wars spoiler cast.
Yeah.
I won't be here. I'm going on vacation, but I am seeing Star Wars, and
I will be here.
This is the final Keeping It Real podcast where we have no idea what the future of Star Wars is.
Wow.
This time next week, we will have an inkling of what's going on next in the galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, we'll have seen Force Awakens at that point.
Yeah.
And we will have formed opinions on it.
Yes.
And if it's
Several
anything,
opinions, maybe.
If it's anything like 1999, we'll be basking in the glow of whatever is presented to us.
I'll be crying in a beer somewhere. But no, I'm really stoked for Force Awakens, like pretty much everyone on Earth. However, I'm also been doing this long enough now that I have cautious optimism because I know sometimes things have nowhere to go but down because we've allowed ourselves, and we're all part of the problem and solution sometimes. But it looks really awesome. It looks fun. Can't wait to see it.
I only have unbridled enthusiasm. I'm not even allowing myself.
I haven't seen anything yet that's made me go, ooh, you know. There was a Chinese trailer that came out that people found too spoilerish. I won't say what's in there because I don't want to. But it wasn't the imagery that was spoilerish. It was one line of dialogue that I did go, that was something I probably wouldn't have signed off on if I was
What's interesting
working on that one.
Is if you watch enough international trailers, they're just presented differently. You know, like there's a way that a trailer is presented in America, and there's like the Chinese trailer was really sequential. And it also filled in plot points a lot more than
new footage.
A lot more than anything from the U.S. has, and the scenes were allowed to play longer, which is interesting too. So, but that's the hallmark of like Chinese trailers that we've seen too. So it was interesting. I mean, honestly, I think they've been super, super careful about everything that we've seen is from a certain chunk of the movie. Like, I don't think we're seeing anything much, maybe a couple shots from the third reel.
Yeah, I have a feeling, well, you know what? Let's save the bulk of Star Wars till later in the podcast, because I want to open with a few other things. So just next week's going to be a Star Wars spoiler cast. So let's talk about a Disney different part of the Disney empire, Pixar. They're pretty much going to have their first legitimate bomb with The Good Dinosaur. It's fading fast. It opened, it was one of their weakest openings. I think it was 13th place out of their 16 movies. It made $39.2 million, I think it was. Only $55 million overseas so far, and it's fading. And you got Alvin and the Chipmunks opening up next week. So
it's a sad world if Alvin and the Chipmunks out-earns you.
Road Chip. We are reviewing that too.
I really hate the materials for that movie. Anyway,
but Pixar's first flop, it's a little stunning. I mean, they've been around for 20 years now.
Yeah.
Pretty good run. Only get your first flop now. But,
well, Bug's Life didn't light the box office records on fire either, and I think Pixar.
A lightning bug.
That's true. I think Pixar knew what they had too because they delayed that movie.
Like 2 years,
I feel like they were like, okay, we've already sunk enough resources into it. We're going to carry forward and put something out there in the market. Now, before you start crying about Pixar, they print money on every other movie.
I mean,
they're going to make
did really well,
tons of money on the home release. They will make their money back eventually, but this is the first Pixar movie that really hasn't been in the black after opening weekend.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It cost $200 million reportedly to produce, another $150 million to market.
I don't know where that went.
It's only made, I want to say 100, and I wrote it down. I'm trying not to wear my glasses so much. I don't know, it's 100 and something million.
100
it's only, so the fact that it's got a long way to go to get in the black. I don't know if it actually will.
And honestly, it's fine. Like, I don't think that this is like a harbinger of doom or anything like that. It's like
it's just
every once in a while,
link in the chain.
Marvel's made not amazing movies a few times as well.
And I reviewed Good Dinosaur. I liked it. I thought it was okay. It was cute.
Your
but
voice keeps going up really high.
That's probably how you know I'm lying.
I mean, it was fine.
It was good. It was good. No, I liked it. It was cute. I loved Spot, the little cave boy, dog man character, or whatever, dog boy character.
Yeah.
But it just didn't. Our producer Kyle and I were talking, and Eric Goldman as well. Like, and Kyle brought up a good point of like they didn't sell it on the characters like they did every other Pixar movie. So you couldn't really latch on to anything. It was sold more as like, look at the beautiful animation, you know?
Which, we've seen enough of at this point to know you're going to get that, but I don't think that's why people go to see any movie.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people do.
Well,
say
Inside Out, like
spectacle movies.
you were sold on the characters. The Toy Story movies, you are. I mean, Up, you were sold on
Ratatouille,
these characters.
like it goes on and on.
So yeah, it was just. It is a little. It's a little curious that they finally had to stumble, but
Honestly, I think it's just I think it's an anomaly, really. Like, I think they're going to come back and it'll be fine. And like I said, I think they knew what they had. What I'm wondering about is like, why did they push so hard on marketing? When I didn't even really see that much marketing for that movie outside of billboards.
Well, I mean, I did find it curious because, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember a lot of Pixar movies opening on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And to me, when you open on a Wednesday, that's because you have big competition and you're gonna have to front load this thing. So I think they knew they were in trouble, I guess, or at least concerned.
Well, sometimes when you open on a Wednesday, you're just like, hey, our movie's really big too.
Like, I mean, it was a holiday and all that jazz, but
every once in a while you'll be like, we have this really big movie and we really want to roll up a bunch of money in this lead up. But it's I don't know. I mean, I think it's a dip for them for sure.
Yeah.
I think they'll make their money back, and you won't be seeing a good Dinosaur 2 though.
Wah wah.
No.
Sorry, Arlo. You could say it's extinct.
Or maybe
it's terrible. I'm
or,
sorry.
Or maybe
I'm
like
sorry.
sometimes what they do is they shift over to like Disney animation, and if there's
start
enough
doing the
like
direct-to-video
they
sequels.
start doing direct to video. So if there's enough like interest in merch and stuff like that, then they'll keep the wagon train going. Tron 2 got a sequel.
Tron got a sequel.
Well, I was gonna say Tron 2 got a sequel, but it didn't.
No,
Like,
they pulled the plug on that
they
puppy.
yanked out of that guy.
So you know what? While we're on the bad news tip, let's talk about how In the Heart of the Sea is opening this weekend. It's Ron Howard's basically the true story of Moby Dick. It's I believe it was a best-selling book. I mean, I know it was a book. I just don't know if it was best-selling. Assuming it was. It's been around for ages now. And it's Chris Hemsworth, and it's tracking at opening between like 12 and 15 million.
Yeah.
And that's $100 million movie at least. So that'd be 2 bombs of 2015 for Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
And he was in Vacation, which also didn't really do well, and that critically was maligned. So it's is Chris Hemsworth a star, or is he just a lucky working actor?
No, I think he is. I think he actually is a star. I just think that
stars open movies, man.
I mean, we've talked about this before. Like sometimes Johnny Depp can't open a movie, and he's a big star. I think I think people are savvier than that now, and they look at like the whole package. Like, is this movie going to appeal to me? Not just like, oh, Johnny Depp. I think there's some markets that are not as they don't care as deeply about like what that factor. They will go see for an actor, but like, I don't know. Like even other Johnny Depp movies, like I said, don't perform well. Like, what was the movie he did with Amber Heard?
The Rum Diary.
Rum Diary.
Yeah.
That didn't do that well. Transcendence underperformed big time, and Transcendence actually had the.
Yeah, Black Mass only did okay. It didn't really. It pretty much just made back its production budget.
So I mean, it's just really tough. People like Leonardo DiCaprio can open movies, but kind of. Like.
I mean, we'll find out with The Revenant. I mean, I loved it, but it's it's curious that these guys are big stars, and yet if you look at like how much money have they actually lost.
Yeah.
People, on that note, let's actually talk about the Golden Globes and the Screen Actor Guild nominations, because Johnny Depp actually, he was getting all this Best Actor buzz a few months ago when Black Mass came out, and he got snubbed by the Globes, So did Straight Outta Compton, and yet they both on the Screen Actors Guild Awards, got nominations.
Yeah.
Trumbo, actually, a movie that's just okay, dominated the Screen Actor Guild nominations. And I went actually to the premiere of that with Chris Tilley, and yeah, that's a movie designed for actors to love, even because it's a Valentine to them. It's like, remember when actors and writers stood their ground, and then criticizing the industry and those that kind of turn their back on them. But I don't think it's not a particularly good movie. It's okay.
Well, and the Academy is made up of all kinds of different segments of Hollywood, and actors comprise a big segment of the Academy. And so sometimes you'll see the strength of that, and people will win because they're popular with actors. Or it is, a lot of times Hollywood movies about Hollywood do well at the Oscars because it's like, hey, I relate to this. And look at what a cool thing we have to say about our industry. But yeah, Straight Outta Compton I would say, is a pretty big snub.
Yeah, I mean, I have the Screen Actors Guild Awards in front of me, the nominations. The cast's nomination was interesting because it was Straight Outta Compton, Trumbo, Spotlight, The Big Short, and Beasts of No Nation. Now, Beasts of No Nation, of course, was it didn't do well at all when it was released theatrically, but it's also like a simultaneous Netflix.
Yeah.
So an interesting development, that Netflix is even on the theatrical side is getting love.
We're going to start seeing that, I think, especially for award season, where they're going to put it in theaters to qualify, but they'll simultaneously release on Netflix, and that's where the bread and butter is going to be. I mean, Netflix has already made the big transition to being more about original stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's only going to continue. Like next year, it was something like 3 times the amount of series that they have this year. And that also, they're also like upping their movie game. So we've got like Crouching Tiger coming up soon, the Adam Sandler stuff. So, it's...
Oh, we're going to have a review for The Ridiculous Six up on the site this weekend, by the way.
The Ridic Sick.
Jeez. The Golden Globe side now, Best Motion Picture Drama, Mad Max Fury Road got a nomination.
For drama.
It's been, we talked about this a little bit last week on how it's getting some legit awards buzz. And
it's already earned some legit awards,
It's freaking amazing. I can't believe
it's
this.
Crazy.
But The Revenant, Room, Spotlight, and Carol.
Spotlight is just rolling, man.
Yeah. Although that got snubbed by the Globes in terms of, I don't believe there were any actual acting nominations. Johnny Depp, like I said, got snubbed. Oh, Screen Actors Guild snubbed The Martian completely.
That's weird.
Do you think that Matt Damon's comments, his less than politically correct comments, hurt him?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I think people, I'm not saying it necessarily happened with him, but I think sometimes there's this like bad moment where you're in people's minds in the wrong way, and then it comes time for honors and stuff like that, and you get, I wouldn't say slighted, but like, you get left off, and
they're like,
could or
you
could
don't
not
get
be
to
intentional.
Come to the party now.
Yeah,
because it was that and The Hateful Eight, but The Hateful Eight just didn't have a chance to really screen. I've seen The Hateful Eight. I can't really say anything except it's
a movie that exists and is shot in 70 millimeters.
Exactly.
I saved you from yourself.
There you go. And then Screen Actors Guild also shut out Joy, which isn't getting great reviews, but we gave it a mediocre score.
Yeah, it's the pre-buzz to it coming out like before anybody had seen it was like, oh, this is gonna be so great, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You heard all this like really positive stuff about it. Then as reviews started trickling in, it's really mixed. And I feel like ours was sort of like about where Rotten Tomatoes is coming down on the side of the
It's kind of
fence as
like the same thing happened with like Black Mass, where there was a lot of buzz and everything, and then it met with a really divided response. Like, I liked it. A lot of people hated it. They just didn't think it was anything special. And so I feel like on the acting side, and a few other pundits have said this, like, I think Johnny Depp and like Will Smith are going to be those outliers that could get the 5th spot on the Best Actor thing. but it's enough to like split the vote so that somebody like Leo could finally actually win an Oscar. Like I feel like he's got him and Fassbender, but I have a feeling like Fassbender is probably not able to campaign, and he's not, from what I hear, very good at it. And Leo, I think it's just like, maybe is it his time?
There's that thing that happens with all awards where at a certain point people are like, the body of this person's work should earn them this award. And what I think is like, probably what I know is going in his favor for this is that he put himself through a lot physically for it, which usually is like...
He grew a beard like yours, man.
Yeah. And I mean, he put himself through a lot physically, which is always a gateway to awards. You know, it's like, oh, he's a vegetarian, he ate this liver, and he did all this like crazy crap out in the, wilderness. So I think it might be his time. And honestly, I think he should have won last year, or for Wolf of Wall Street. So like, I don't mind him getting an award at this point. I think it's good.
It's going to be interesting to see like the Best Actress race too. It's just I think it was the Screen Actors Guild gave Sarah Silverman a nomination as Best Actress for a dramatic turn in a movie called I Smile Back. So if she got an Oscar nomination, that would, can you believe that? That'd be kind of awesome, right? And then Sylvester Stallone. We talked about this last week. We're pulling for him to get a Best Supporting Actor for Creed, but we'll see. You got he's not winning all the honors. I went to a.
It's a nostalgic award, though. I think.
Yeah,
it's like one of those things where like somebody's career comes almost full circle, coming back to Rocky. I think it could kind of be a good story for the Academy, and they love that.
Yeah.
So like
that's
when it
why
comes
I
to the
haven't
Oscar
ruled
time,
out Johnny Depp either, because I don't think he's got a shot at winning, but I think he'll at least get a nomination because they'd be like, see, Johnny proved himself as an actor again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But,
I think he's a fine actor when he sort of applies himself. Johnny Depp. Yeah. I was talking about this the other day that like. He kind of, with Edward Scissorhands, which just had an anniversary, he kind of like, that was the movie that kind of like turned him on to that kind of role. It
wasn't Benny and June, or which one came first?
No, I'm pretty sure Edward Scissorhands was first, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it like kind of turned him on to that kind of role, the like role of eccentric, and then it's like a hard line in his career right there, and then it was like all, kind of all over the map first, and then it was like Edward Scissorhands, and then it was like, whoa,
people forget he was in
like
Platoon.
Yeah, he's in all kinds of crazy stuff, like, and and he always like had varying like different kinds of roles, and that was cool. But like that's where he started doing that Johnny Depp trope,
the dress up, acting. Well, let's move on from awards chatter, because we'll be covering those shows coming up for. Tis the season to be nutty actors and all that jazz. I don't know why I said it like that.
Nutty actors.
I don't know why I did that. So anyway, Star Wars. That little gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
We did the junket last week, and Terry Schwartz was there, and she talked to pretty much everyone except for Princess Leia herself, General Leia. And on that note, she actually, JJ, you can check it out on the site, was explaining why she is, I guess, spoiler warning, but she's a General Leia now instead of becoming a Jedi, and that, I think it's just being a Jedi is not for everyone.
Yeah. I don't know that.
She's Force sensitive, though.
I don't know that I would choose it necessarily.
I mean, has it ever gone well for anybody who became a Jedi?
Yeah. I mean, as a child, I would have been like, hell yes. Although as a kid, I think I wanted to be Han Solo more than Luke. But like,
when I was a kid, I wanted to be Luke, actually.
But you have a lightsaber.
To grow up to be Han.
You have all that stuff. There's all this other stuff that goes along with being a Jedi, though. That like, as you get older, you realize like, I don't know.
Well, I think, and we were talking about this upstairs of. The prequels demystified the Jedi too much.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they have this like a boardroom at the Ramada, and they're like in the heart of the city instead of like a monastery somewhere, and like they were supposed to be this like ancient religion, and it's like, no, they pretty much might as well have been like the Shriners, because they were just like downtown.
Yeah.
And there was nothing like, not enough time had passed between their extinction and New Hope. You're like,
Yeah.
there wasn't, so it doesn't, when you look back at the old movies and that smart ass on the Death Stars
I hadn't even really thought
talking
about that.
back at Vader, it's like you and your ancient religion and sort of nobody believes in that stuff or whatever. It's like, it was like 10 years ago, man. Like, what,
Because it's like, I feel like a lot of the prequel stuff was kind of retconned in based on comments that they had made that they had never intended to like have to talk about.
Yeah,
and,
like the Clone Wars. They
and
just
then
threw
I
it out
think-
there because it sounded cool, I
I think
bet.
they just got it wrong. You know, I think they just like took those drops that were in the original scripts and they just didn't do it the way. Because when you were a kid, you were probably like, what are the Clone Wars? And that sounds
Yeah.
interesting. And, you know, I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to see, you know, the Kessel Run and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I almost think that the things that you think you want, you don't want. Like,
Yeah.
you probably don't want to know where Boba Fett really came from, you know?
Right.
Ultimately. You probably
Yeah.
just want him to show up and be
Now,
cool.
okay, George Lucas gave the most backhanded compliment to Force Awakens. He saw it. Kathleen Kennedy said
most promising
he
compliment,
really
actually.
liked it, and then he on the record said, and I'm paraphrasing here. Basically, it's the fans will love it. It's the movie they wanted.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's almost as cool as when Harrison Ford said it was a wonderful movie. Like, because
wonderful.
if he thinks that it's
But
a movie
really
that
liked it.
that the fans would like.
But he said that he didn't want to make a movie that was just fan service. So when he was doing it, so it does sound a little bit like
But
they'll like it.
I think he
know?
did do movies that were trying to be fan service and then just didn't do them right. Like, I think he was trying to listen to fans and say like, oh, they like Boba Fett? Well, let me try to give them this other guy, Django. And, oh, you know, they like this thing. You know, I was thinking about the lightsaber battles because we were running a piece on like ranking the lightsaber battles. All kinds of stuff, obviously, on the site leading up to Force Awakens. But, you know, I was thinking about the protracted sort of Yoda-Sidious fight and how like it just kind of goes on and on and on,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't mean much. It's like such contrast.
I forget, like, did it even advance the plot much?
I don't think so. Like I mean, it's in such contrast to like the pivotal lightsaber battles in Empire Strikes Back and
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi, because those were
Or
like
even New Hope, you know,
exactly.
You know, Obi-Wan, I mean, you see that it was their first, you know, actually, we should do a thing like Darth Vader's most badass moments.
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't steal that.
it was basically like you know, like emotional moments and character moments in
Yeah.
addition to being action scenes.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, what was missing from the prequels. And I think it's because
Great point.
he
yeah.
was actually not invested in that anymore. He's doing the thing that he's decrying this movie for doing. He's saying like, oh, you know, like, I didn't want to make a movie about this. I was making a soap opera. It was all about the characters. But really, it was a lot about the spectacle when it comes right down to it. And I just think he did it wrong. Like,
Yeah.
to be honest, like,
Yeah.
I like the practical stuff in Force Awakens just looks so good and so
Yeah,
much more
it really
of the
does.
world than the
It just-
prequel stuff.
It looks more like a Star Wars movie than this kind of antiseptic,
Yeah.
green screen, everything highly polished kind
Yeah.
of world that he gave us in the prequels.
All the stuff we were sort of blowing off when it first came out, like people were like, oh, everything's too shiny and everything looks too, you know, it doesn't
Yeah.
look like lived in. And it's exactly the truth, you know, like you talked yourself into it, like, oh, this was a different time. You know, this is going to bother me now that you mentioned how little time was between the Jedi.
The rest of your life, this will be stuck in your craw.
It is annoying because you think about like your concept of like this ancient religion and like Darth Vader and Obi-Wan being practitioners of it. And really what? It's like, you know, 30 years tops. That's not that much time really, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, I think to your point, like if they had set like the Jedi Council, if it had been more Kurosawa in nature.
And also too, like, and we were talking about this upstairs, you know, if the Jedi are this waning order, there's still seem like there's plenty left.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they had the crop of kids, the younglings. They
Yeah.
had, you know, enough for Order 66.
Yeah.
You know, they had enough for a montage, an execution montage. A couple of other little bits that have been coming out in the press. about Star Wars. Captain Phasma was originally supposed to be a man.
Oh, no.
I think it's great that Gwendolyn Christie is that character.
I think it's great that she lobbied so hard for that role. Like,
Right.
I guess, the story goes that she kept just going to her agent and saying, I want to be in Star Wars, I want to be in Star Wars, I want to be in Star Wars. Like, just like got really annoying about it. And then she is in Star Wars. And I think the movie is going to benefit from that.
Yeah, I mean, I do hope that she actually gets a chance to do some acting and isn't just a suit. But
it is a cool suit if she does it.
Sweet ass suit. Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaac was telling our own Terry Schwartz, you should do it. It should be a drinking game whenever I mention Terry and she's not here. That he kind of sort of pitched like the idea that, since he is Guatemalan, that he should be that Poe should I believe it was supposed to be like Yavin, where he's from, because they filmed in Guatemala for that, and so that they kind of took that and used it for the recent comic book stories of Poe's parents and that sort of thing. And then let's see. Okay, we already talked about Lucas's reaction. Carrie Fisher chimed in on all that Slave Leia merchandise controversy.
I love her attitude about everything
She's
these
so
days.
awesome. Any interview with her, like she brings her dog on the interviews, and I think her dog's name is Gary.
Yeah.
And she's just like, my dog's famous, She just sits there and makes like little asides to him.
I love Gary. Gary's awesome. Yeah, she totally like. There's a Good Morning America interview.
Yeah.
Is it Good Morning America?
Yeah.
I think it was, and she just owned it.
She even drops his name checks Gary during the generics for Star Wars.
My favorite thing about Gary is that he's seen Force Awakens before any of us.
And his tongue was hanging out, she said. So that's a good response. She just basically, she chimed in on the fathers that are kind of coming out against it and just called it, quote, stupid. Like, just teach your kid that she was forced to wear that outfit by a monster and that wasn't her choice, and she stopped for herself and owned it.
Killed him, took the costume off, boom,
never
done.
wore it again,
But I had a conversation about this week that, like, when I was a kid watching these movies, I had no concept of, like, I really just didn't even have a concept of sexuality in the first place. I thought it was just another outfit she was wearing, like.
Well, the force started to awaken in me, I think.
Well, okay, so maybe it's a formative experience for some people.
I was 10, okay? It's about the right age.
So, okay, put that aside. What I'm saying is, like, I don't think it occurs to every kid, and if your kid has questions about that, I think it's a good time to, like, explain some stuff. And I think actually her response to that was good. It was like, hey, I was forced to wear this, and it was a thing, it was an outfit, and then later on I beat this guy.
I mean, she described it, and I'm paraphrasing, these aren't her words, but like she basically said it was a prisoner uniform. It was like it wasn't by her own choice, and she was, that it wasn't.
As evidenced by the chain around her neck also. The other thing I love, she didn't really touch on it, but I think it's worth mentioning, is that Leia, of her own agency, is the person who brings Jabba to an end. She had no help with that.
No.
She...
Well, she blew up the whole... Oh, wait, was it Luke or Leia who shot the cannon into... I forget. Is that Luke?
Well, she takes control of the gun.
Yeah, I thought she was... okay, I totally...
So anyway, she chokes out Jabba of her own, sort of free will with no help from anybody there. It's like she consistently throughout the series, and I'm assuming it continues in Force Awakens, has... Whenever she's had a moment to sort of like prove her agency in the world, she does it. She takes
into the
action.
garbage chute, flyboy.
Yeah, she takes action. Like the moment she gets rescued, she's like, "Oh, this is my rescue. Okay, well, I'm taking charge now."
Yeah.
So I feel like the sort of thing about Star Wars is that they sort of all the time talk about like, hey, there wasn't much female representation.
I mean, did you see that video that was going around? It was literally every female character in Star Wars who wasn't in the original Star Wars who wasn't Leia.
Right.
And so it was a minute 14.
I think they fixed it.
And most of it was Mon Mothma.
I think they fixed it in this one,
Yeah,
but at least the representation of women in Star Wars was, like she held it down, like Carrie Fisher held it down, and I think that character was written smartly, and I think it's kind of a testament to the character. We talk to a lot of people about who their favorite Star Wars characters are, and Leia comes up over and over and over again, and I can't even tell you how many women I know of my own age who were she was a role model to me. So that's awesome, and I'm glad to see it.
Now, our probably last thing to talk about Star Wars until we actually see it. What would be the one thing that would really ruin the movie for you if when you're watching it, you're like, oh no, they did that?
I think plot point wise, anything could be good or bad. I just think that I want everything to be earned. I want the emotions to feel real and not based on nostalgia. And I think they will. I'm sure that nostalgia is going to factor in for me personally, but you have to sell this as a movie to a new generation of people who may or may not.
A new set of characters to fall in love with.
Who may or may not know Star Wars or may or not care about the old characters.
I am surprised at the number of people who haven't seen Star Wars.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it's also crazy. I was going to bring this
Hopefully they also have learned about plumbing. I don't know, anything.
This merchandise push has been ubiquitous in the world. So now it's people already have their favorite characters going into this movie and they haven't seen it yet.
So savvy, isn't it?
It's great. I mean, from a
Disney
money making.
Disney just incepts the public, man. My little niece, and she was only 4 at the time, or maybe even younger, but when Brave was coming out, she already knew who Merida was before that thing. And to go back to our point on Good Dinosaur, nobody really knew about Arlo and Spot. They knew that there was a green dinosaur and a little cave boy, but it wasn't. Their thing is they hook you into that character. You already care about Rey and Finn, and you're already creepy but cool villains in Phasma and Kylo Ren. They're a little late to the game on Poe Dameron, but we'll see. Oscar Isaac's one of those actors. I said this on Twitter yesterday. He can play 25 or 45 without makeup.
Yeah.
It's absolutely. It's just the way he carries himself. I saw him in what's the thing that I think it was the David Simon thing, Show Me a Hero or something like that. And he seems like a middle-aged
world-weary guy,
and there's no makeup. He's just got a mustache, and all he has to do is just shift his body language and grow a mustache, and it's
and
suddenly
droop his eyes a little more.
Yeah, and then you look at him in the interviews for Star Wars, you're he still looks like a kid,
Yeah.
He's a great actor and a cool guy to talk to, and I really hope this does wonders for his career. So. Any final thoughts on Star Wars before we move on?
Just that I'm super excited about it. I mean, it's funny. Actually, I had one more point about the marketing thing. It's if these characters were insidious or bad, or if they were not something that you wanted people to align with, then I think everybody would see this in a whole different light. If Finn and Rey didn't seem like good characters that you could actually see yourself as. And Kylo Ren is a little bit like Darth Vader, it's a bad guy, he looks cool, but I'm not gonna like him, he still scares me.
Yeah.
If you're a kid. But yeah, I mean, if we would be having a much different conversation if Disney was incepting, things that were not cool to like.
You already get a sense of. You already like the actors playing those two leads too.
Yeah.
Boyega and Ridley have really just been. They've been out there a lot, but they just seem like sweet.
Yeah.
Not to sound patronizing, but they seem like sweet kids.
Really.
You're rooting for these people already. You're they're just
and big
good job,
fans.
good casting, yeah.
Big fans, and then I think there's also a little bit of the wonder of I'm caught up in this thing that I never expected, and it's awesome. So I think really, I think they cast almost as much for the publicity machine as they did for the roles themselves.
Yeah,
and
they're good salespeople.
Like
They've been out there, and you don't want some moody young actor, and you don't want to get you don't need that headache when you're selling this to a new generation.
Yeah, you're putting out Daisy Ridley and John Boyega, and then Adam Driver is kind of that moody character sometimes in things, but
he's the bad guy. You can get away with that.
Yeah, he's the bad guy. But I think the core people have been really positive, including Harrison Ford, and
it's
that's been
to see
kind of a
Harrison
revelation.
Ford has been in such good spirits doing all this stuff. And the movie's wonderful, but he's he's also just to watch interviews with him talking about Star Wars and hearing him just matter-of-factly say things like Millennium Falcon and Chewbacca, and you're like, oh my God, he's back.
It's happening, people.
You know, but like even in the clips, like he seems like his old self again. Not just Han, but Harrison Ford. Like he's got that kind of roguish wit back, and you're like, I missed that in that guy.
Yeah.
Not to be a complete segue, but like I missed that about Julia Roberts and Bruce Willis and like Kevin Costner. Like they've all become so dour, and it's like, dude, come on, you guys lit up the screen. Bring that
weight
stuff
of the world.
back.
You know, I was thinking about this expression that the world has, full of life. And I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, what does that mean? You know, what does it mean to actually call somebody full of life? Because you hear it all the time, but it's like that in-person thing, or sometimes it's on screen, that like that chemistry thing where it, like that person pops and they seem like they're having fun in their life, even in the downtimes, you know? And I think that's what really good actors portray.
And that's a star quality. There are a lot of good actors who don't have that. You know.
And you know, you're around people all the time, and some of them are like really accomplished big stars, and some of them are like up and coming people. And even in the up and coming people, you can see who's got that thing. And then you can see who's just like
Boyega's got that.
I wandered into this
like
off the street.
Every time I see an interview with Boyega, you're just like, this kid is awesome. Like he's just in such good spirits, and he's just, you know, it's just like you're rooting for these people already. Let's move on from Star Wars. Wow.
Sadly.
This time next week, we're going to know what the future of Star Wars is a little bit more.
So
this is kind of a landmark moment in the podcast. We don't have to speculate. Well, we do, obviously, but you know, we're going to know more than we did.
We'll switch to Rogue One after.
Episode 7's dead to us now. All right, let's move on to some DC Marvel stuff, because, you know, there's only 4 flavors of movie food now. So anyways, Batman v Superman, the costume designer acknowledged that Flash makes a cameo in there because he was talking about building a suit.
Which we kind of suspect.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you cast Ezra Miller that far ahead of time and not use him. Same with like Ray Fisher, a Cyborg, like, and Momoa as Aquaman, like they're gonna be in there. They're gonna, even if it's that last shot of, you know, let's do this team or whatever, you know. And this one's a little bit more spoilerish, but it's confirming a theory that a lot of people espouse, including our UK and AU editors, that the desert sequences and the mask ripping off stuff is all a nightmare that Batman is having.
Which makes sense because tonally it's weird and different. Costume-wise, it's different.
Like, I mean,
there's no reason that Superman. Somebody brought this up on Twitter.
No reason for Batman to look scared. First of all, Batman in real life wouldn't do that. So it makes sense that he would show like fear and panic in his mind.
And then also there's the like Superman like squad of like whatever those guys are in the hall. Super Nazis.
And then a rumor from Latino Review that the solo Batman movie might see Batman team up with Will Smith's Deadshot.
That's interesting.
But see, Deadshot, when I was growing up, he was a villain. And I get now like they've kind of made him an anti-hero. I guess, I mean, I don't know. I guess it could work. I mean, it's Will Smith. And
we'll see what happens in Suicide
I mean, they want
Squad.
that big box office, and Will Smith and Ben Affleck in
but
in
here's
a DC
the thing.
movie.
Guy who doesn't kill people, guy who really kills people, you know? Like,
I mean, well, it's actually in a weird way, isn't that basically Daredevil season 2? It's going to be Daredevil and Punisher, and they'll probably start off as, you know, wait a minute, I see the same pattern again. 2 guys fighting, mutual threat unites them.
That's going to be the year of this, right?
Right. Well, like Captain America Civil War. We talked about this last week, but, you know, but I think it's interesting.
Do you think anybody ever pumps the brakes and they're like, wait.
We got everyone fighting?
Well, you know, it happened in Avengers, too. I think people like to discount that, but there was a lot of, like, there was a little battle in the woods.
You see that deleted scene of Vision just basically fighting all the Avengers? It's not a particularly good scene. And I'm like, I'm glad it got cut. I mean, I loved Vision in the movie, but it's just like, it didn't make any sense. Like, why is everyone just fighting right off the bat? It's a very comic book thing. You get it when you're just thumbing through the pages. You're like, I just want to see something pop. But when you're watching it in a movie, you're like, what is the dramatic impetus for this attack? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, these people are like really on edge.
Just sit down and have a coffee, will you?
Let's hash this out.
So, curse of the podcast last week. Ryan Coogler, director of Creed, he's got 2 great flicks under his belt now with Fruitvale Station and Creed. Looks like he's going to be the director of Black Panther. He's in negotiations, and that's a great get for Marvel.
That seems like a really smart.
It's a win-win
choice,
for
yeah.
everyone, you know. Although I have to say, I'm surprised that Coogler would do it because he's coming off of like 2 critically acclaimed dramas, and you know he could probably have his pick of things. But I think he's
Does it
doing
get
a smart
bigger than a sweet Marvel movie like bringing
Well, it's
Black
a great
Panther to life?
graduation too because he started very micro-budget film, mid-budget film.
Yeah.
So now he's being smart about it. He's like, I'm earning my chops so I can handle this big,
Wow.
kind of this big factory-made, really in a lot of ways thing. No matter how heartfelt and personal he could make it, it's still now you're in the real consumerism filmmaking. You know?
We've seen 2 like polar opposites try that. Josh Trank with Fantastic Four, that didn't work out well. But then Colin Trevorrow did a really good job with Jurassic World,
Yep.
and that was both of them came from small projects and then went right to
Yeah.
big projects. So I think maybe the step in the middle will have taught some things about
and
character
dealing
and
with
action.
something and dealing with big name actor, not the Stallone. Like any actor has his ego, especially when you're dealing with something that somebody else created that means so much to so many people, and you can still make it your own and make it awesome and honor that. Like that's a win for Marvel. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
you
absolutely.
got this guy now in your family and keep him there.
Yeah. If they can, I mean,
if
I
they
feel
can,
like
I mean.
I feel like I could also see him doing one movie and then saying like, "Hey, cool,
Hey,
I
thanks
did
for
that.
the boost. I'm
I'm gonna do more
Yeah.
other stuff now."
I'll send you a Christmas card.
Yeah, so I think that's a great choice.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, the sequel to this year's hit movie, director Peyton Reed says that the sequel is going to be even weirder,
Yeah,
which I kind of love.
Yeah,
I'm
I do
like,
too.
Interesting, and that they're going to bring back all the same group of like the second wave of writers. So basically, everyone who wasn't Edgar Wright, Adam McKay is going to
McKay's
come
coming
back
back.
and help in
if his
own
schedule
way.
permits, right?
Yeah, I mean, he might just be there as like a sounding board of like, hey, what would be good if, and I think they want to keep McKay in their family too because I could see him doing something down the line for them, some tentpole.
Yeah.
I mean, The Big Short is great, by the way.
He could take something
his new
like
movie.
wacky and turn it into something.
Yeah.
I mean, Guardians kind of did that, but like now, I really think Guardians blew the whole thing wide open, and Ant-Man. I mean, there's a lot more room to play in the Marvel universe now, and so I think it's interesting. And I really like that Marvel is diversified to the point where on one end of the spectrum you can have Jessica Jones, and on the other end of the spectrum you can have something like Ant-Man or Guardians.
It is going to be a period in Hollywood history that will be remembered and analyzed for years to come because it is different. It is the best thing I can equate it to would be the way Star Wars changed things in the late 70s or the way Disney in the 40s kind of revolutionized things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's creating a whole new industry within the industry. It changed the way Hollywood makes movies.
It's crazy
Star
that
Wars
all
did
that's
that,
under Disney
and
now.
Disney animation showed that you can make great, beloved movies that were animated at a time when they're just cartoons. There's just something to play in front of the A picture, and they changed all of that. I mean, Snow White was a game changer. Star Wars was a game changer. So I feel like Marvel. This is they made history. I'm not overselling it either. I think it's a legit
absolutely
thing.
not. Anybody in Hollywood would tell you that right now too,
Yeah.
because like everybody is scrambling to do that thing, and I think everybody is finding out how hard it is to do that thing, and how like it is the perfect like mix of factors that made it possible for Marvel Studios to do what it did.
Yeah.
So, and also I have to say, people are always like Disney's going to ruin Marvel, but I think Disney's maintained a really good touch on those films.
They understand. I mean, I always thought Disney was a great home for Marvel
me
because
too.
they understand family entertainment. They understand marketing, merchandising, theme park, like all the stuff that, yes, you're going to want all of that with Marvel. You're going to want to buy the toys. You're going to want to like see a theme park attraction of it. Like it makes sense. It's a good home for them.
I, in fact, cannot wait until they announce and open something that is completely Marvel related.
An actual, I mean, Eric Goldman will never leave that. Already with the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is opening up here in LA, and we've already been joking like we're never going to see him again. He's just going to live there.
I'm going down there every week. I'll just get a season pass, and every week I'll go and get my butterbeer, and then just love my life.
One last thing on Ant-Man and the Wasp. Peyton Reed also said that, you know, the first movie was like a heist movie, and he wouldn't say what genre, but it's going to be a different genre template for this one. So I'm excited to see, like, I bet you it's going to be more like inner space or sort of like a sci-fi adventure, because, you know, they're going to want to go to the macroverse and try and find the original Wasp, right? Since we know that it's possible for her to be alive.
Right.
So I think, you know,
I think
that's
inner
just
space
my
is a good idea. Or what is it called? Not the Incredible Journey. The Fantastic Journey.
Or like Honey, I Shrunk the Kid.
Fantastic Voyage.
Fantastic Voyage, yeah.
Ride, slippity slide.
Right.
Living in the city is do or die. I couldn't let that go, guys. I'm sorry. Coolio reigns.
You did mention how Marvel's TV stuff and their range, and I think it was Jeff Loeb, but it was basically explaining that it's likely that the Defenders won't show up in Avengers Infinity War, which makes sense because they're street level, and, you know, what's Jessica Jones going to do in space?
I honestly think that the way that those things are
There's
tied
no whiskey
together
in space, Jessica.
Yeah. The way those things are tied together is going to be in mention only for a while.
Okay.
Until they can make it work. But also, it's just a logistical nightmare. There's lots of schedules to deal with.
Yep.
And you know, things are shooting, and you know, I am totally fine with them not being included.
All right, we're gonna wrap up the podcast talking about some new trailers. Let's start with the one that we just simply don't agree on.
Yeah, buddy.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What is it? Out of the Shadows.
Out of the Shadows.
The second one.
Yeah.
You really like this trailer.
Yeah, I did.
Why? What is wrong with you, man?
I think it captures. It doesn't capture the comic, right? And I don't think we're ever going to get a piece of fiction that really captures what the comic was when it started. But what it captured for me was the feeling of those cartoons that the Turtles had, you know, back in the day when they really gained their popularity. And, you know, seeing Bebop and Rocksteady, it puts it on this different plane for me. Like, it's like, okay, Turtles fighting, you know, Shredder and that threat is one thing. But, like, you start getting these things in there, and now you're like, why not call up Krang? Why can't he show up, you know?
Oh, God.
And then Casey Jones, I don't know, I liked it. I liked the friggin', I liked that they were doing the manhole cover shooting out of the van. I don't know. I liked it. I'm not going to apologize.
So stupid to me. It just, like, every time somebody said a line, turtle or not, like, I just groaned. I'm like, oh my God, this just looks like the most brain dead thing.
But dude, in this series, when somebody says "Cowabunga, dude," people are going to cheer in the theater. So, like, you're not starting from a place of high.
I know, but it's like
art.
I don't know. Fans and audiences can't have it both ways. You can't be like, they need to stop making these stupid branded movies, and then be like, this shit looks great. You know? Sorry, I'm not supposed to swear.
It's okay. I mean, I personally, I think, you know, there's room for everybody, honestly, and like, I think the reaction was kind of weirdly split, just like we are when
like,
it debuted.
The ones that liked it loved it. Like people like, oh my God, this is going to be great.
Well, I was smiling watching it, which is weird because I went into it feeling that like I thought I was going to feel like you do now, which is like, oh my God, this is so terrible. And then I started watching it and I was like, well, did I just
donate it? Yeah.
Did I just love it? I don't even know how to react to this.
I know. When I saw your tweet last night, I'm like, I can't let this one go.
You're dead to me, Carl.
So let's talk about a different trailer that has
totally different flavor.
Has met with a largely negative response, which is The Legend of Tarzan. Like, I didn't hate the trailer, but I can see it did feel relatively kind of uninspired. And that last shot of Tarzan and the gorilla, like, that right out of the Hercules movie.
Yeah.
You know, that was cheesy, and the dialogue was pretty cheesy.
I wasn't super.
But those abs on Alexander Skarsgård,
he's in shape for this movie.
Damn.
I wasn't mad at the trailer really, but it felt very Yeatsian to me, which is like there's very yeoman-like work going on in the directing. Like, it's going to be a movie that exists, that works on the levels that you hope a movie...
It doesn't look like it's something that appeals to children, though, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, you know, it's funny. Is like I kind of just feel like it is going to be a movie that happened. You know? Oh, hey, that Tarzan movie that happened, and then we'll like think about it later. Like it's almost like it gave me the same
John
feeling
Carter
of, like,
trailers were more exciting.
Prince of Persia kind of springs to mind, where it's like, how do I feel
Oh
about
yeah,
this?
box checked. Next, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's got Sam Jackson. You know, Sam Jackson's character in that movie is a real guy.
Oh yeah.
And they're doing it kind of the backdrop of the basically the Belgian genocide in the Congo. I'm like, man, you're taking it to a pretty bleak place there.
Can you just swing around on vines or something?
Know?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's what did you think of the action? Like, there was a lot of vine swinging
the
stuff.
The CGI stuff it looked like stuff from the 2000s, like the early 2000s.
There's a bigger question here, and one we've argued many, many times. So, like, there are certain properties that they just keep trying to make happen live action, and it's like, do we need a Tarzan movie at all? Like, who is clamoring for this?
I had kind of a depressing conversation yesterday with our producer Kyle and Terry, and you know, I'm a big history buff, and I like the older stuff. But you know, they made the point that like if it happened before 1950, like anything in the 1800s is audiences are just kind of over, which I don't think I necessarily buy because, you know, like the Sherlock Holmes movies and Sherlock does well and stuff like that. So, you know, I think it all depends on the execution. I think Tarzan, just for the same reasons we've discussed before, it's in this day and age, it's a tough sell of the great white hero in Africa. It's like, it's of its time, you know?
Yeah. And you know, like, I just don't feel like there are a ton of people out there who are like, we need to remake these classics into something. Yeah. You know, so I don't know how they keep getting made, honestly.
Jungle Book, I think it comes under the Disney touch. Like, Jungle Book looks like the one that, like, will nail that, you know? Trailer-wise, this week's Curse of the Podcast, X-Men Apocalypse trailer, dropping tomorrow, Friday. So look for it here on IGN. And then the Star Trek Beyond trailer should be dropping next week.
Wow.
So we'll get a look at the
getting
Enterprise
a lot of
Cruise
stuff because
adventure.
Everybody, it's like when you have the comments and like in before, you know, snide remarks or something. It's like in before Star Wars. That's what's happening right now. In before Force Awakens, so that they can have their trailer on Force Awakens when it's wide.
Just throwing out some news items. Lionsgate acknowledged that they're actively looking into developing Hunger Games prequels.
I mean,
whatever.
I mean, of course.
Dark Tower, Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey reportedly the front runners. Idris as Roland the Gunslinger.
I would watch that movie.
And McConaughey as the Man in Black.
All right.
Mission Impossible 6, they're going to bring back not only Chris McQuarrie as director, but also Rebecca Ferguson, the big breakout, the first female lead to return for a mission.
This is exclusive. Tom Cruise will also be back.
You heard it here first, people.
Yes.
And Sophia Boutella from Kingsman Secret Service, the one with the blades on her feet, is
Blady, as we call her.
is reportedly up for the title role in the Mummy reboot. They want to do a
you came into my life and then you sliced me.
You do have the Kenny Rogers beard going on, doesn't he, though?
Dude, I grew up listening to so much Kenny Rogers. It's just ridiculous.
I had the weirdest... Talk about diversity in my likes of music. One day, this is years ago, I was buying 2 CDs. One was Kenny Rogers' Greatest Hits and AC/DC.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right, Reuben James. That's going to do it for this week's... wait. Real quick. Geez. Looking ahead to 2016.
Yes. What 2
movies are you most excited to see?
I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't say Civil War because that is just, I want to see what they do there. You know, I want to see Spidey. I want to see Black Panther real bad.
Black Panther's not next. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
Civil War. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, I kind of want to see Ghostbusters, you know? Yeah. I haven't seen anything in the trailer or whatever, but like, I am just curious to see what they do there. And I'm not saying I'm going to love it offhand or whatever. That's the one I'm kind of like really, really interested in.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff, though. I mean, like, next year's full of all kinds of stuff. And I'm really curious about Batman versus Superman also, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Mine are Suicide Squad.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd have to say maybe Rogue One, just because I'm curious to see a Star Wars movie that doesn't have any of the original characters, even if played by a younger actor, anything there to latch onto, and knowing how the story ends. Like, if you can pull that off, then it does open up a number of possibilities of Star Wars surviving beyond the original cast and even the characters. So
Little film called Titanic pulled that off, though. We'll see.
Yes, didn't it though? And then just in hindsight of 2015, let's say your two favorite movies of this past year.
Oh man, I've thought about this a lot. I mean, Ex Machina is there. Period. Done. Like, was one of my favorite movies. Was one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time. And then, I really, really loved Jurassic World. I know a lot of people were like, yeah, it was okay, or the middle of the road on it, but it really kind of took me back to that place of just wonder and awe. I kind of feel like maybe Force Awakens might jump in there.
Yeah, we're doing this without seeing Force Awakens yet, so maybe we're doing it too early.
Well, I mean, we're going to only be talking about Force Awakens next week, so I'll tell you if it changes. Yeah.
I would say for me, I really liked Inside Out. And then Mad Max Fury Road I like quite a bit. I mean, I loved both of those movies. But I think possibly like The Revenant. It was a movie designed like just for somebody like me.
Yeah.
And so I think I appreciate it in that level. And then I really liked Hateful Eight, but I can't say anything more beyond that.
I think for The Revenant, it's just really beautiful. I love that they shot using like available light and
it's it's a hell of a filmmaking feat, and I just feel like in this day and age, you have to support movies that are trying to do something different.
And support movies that are like designed to be cinematic, like there's this thing that I always feel that if I don't want to see a movie in the theater, like if there's not a reason for me to go see the spectacle of that thing, then why do I care about it? Like it might as well be a TV show. And TV shows have like just dug in and really own that space.
Yep.
But yeah, like I want movies to be cinematic, and that movie looks amazing.
Oh, Creed's another great one.
Oh,
that
Creed,
I love this
yes.
year. All right, guys. Well, that'll do it for this week's show. We'll be back next week again with our Star Wars Force Awakens spoiler cast. Sans me. But, the Schwartz will be with us.
Always.
Always. So for all things movies, keep it here on IGN.